Welcome back, True Seeker. Getting a late start today. Little one didn't want to sleep, just went down for a nap, about 5 hours late. But sadly, in the time I was having a good time with my little girl, two more NBA players announced dead at very young ages. One 29, didn't even make it to 30, and the other one 47. Jason Collins of the Collins twins, which it seems just yesterday they were playing together at Stanford. We're going to talk about why both of their deaths were announced today. They're saying Brandon Clarke likely overdosed yesterday, the day of the sweep, and as in the Thunder sweeping the Lakers, which was really obvious it was going to happen after Game 3, because if you saw Game 3, the Thunder won 131-108, and yesterday they closed it out on the 131st day of the year. Notice they're the only one scoring 131 points in the playoffs, but when they won 131-108, they won by 23 points. And of course, sweep has that Gematria 23 and all these little 131 things the Thunder keep doing. By the way, they even scored 131 points the day they got their 68th win, as their home record became 131-58 in the playoffs. Anyway, let's talk about why Brandon Clarke and Jason Collins have been announced dead today, 22 days before the start of the NBA Finals. If you've seen my work on the movie Him about sacrifice in pro sports, of course, I've been talking about sacrifice in pro sports for more than a decade before Him came out. But if you've seen my work on that, it's important because Brandon Clarke's birthday is the same day that Him came out. And Him, if you haven't seen it, has a lot to do with blood and injecting other people's blood. And it came out on the day that the Catholic Church celebrates as the feast day for the patron saint of blood. These things aren't an accident. Of course, Brandon Clarke went to the Catholic University Gonzaga, which is a Catholic Jesuit school, and Jason Collins went to Stanford, which is unofficially Catholic. It's not technically Catholic, but it's very Catholic. It has a huge Catholic community. If you've ever been to Stanford, it feels like you're in Rome. It's all Roman architecture. But look at this. Both men were drafted into the NBA at age 22. 22, right? We'll get to why it matters that Brandon Clarke was the 21st pick and why it matters that Jason Collins was the 18th pick. But we'll start with Brandon Clarke, and actually we'll just start with them dying their deaths being announced 22 days before the start of the NBA Finals. They're saying Brandon Clarke died yesterday, which would have been 23 days before the start of the Finals. I just talked about how sweep equals 23. The Thunder swept LeBron in his 23rd season. And remember, LeBron was 41 this year, wearing a 23 patch for his 23rd season. If you're new here, this is the practice of coding numbers into words based on 4 simple ciphers that are all based on the alphabetic order. The most simple is ABC is 1, 2, 3, up to Z is 26. The next cipher is the alphabetic order with numerology applied to each letter. So if you're saying, well, why is Z 8? It's because it's the 26th letter, and the numerology at 26 is 2 plus 6 is 8. Y, the 25th letter is 2 plus 5 is 7. X, the 24th letter is 2 plus 4 is 6. There's also the reverse alphabetic order. You might recall when LeBron signed with the Lakers, 2 players from UCLA were dead in it was 2 or 3 days after he had signed. 2 players from UCLA died, both in connection to 67, and then King's also 22 in reverse numerology. And we're getting real familiar with the 22 here as we talk about these deaths of these men who were drafted at age 22 being dead 22 days before the start of the finals. And also, in light of Gonzaga being a Jesuit university and Stanford having that unofficial Catholic connection, this news comes 185 days from the Superior General's birthday. That's the leader of the Jesuits, Arturo Sosa. You can see how basketball has the 22 and 185. And notice Brandon Clarke, again, born September 19th. That was the day Him came out, the movie that Hollywood put out about blood sacrifices to make it in the league. And if you've seen the movie, there's a devastating scene with a big number 47 right in front of your face. And of course, for over a decade, I've had the license plate behind me that says, "What is 47?" Notice Jason Collins is dead at 47 today. These things are not an accident. But yes, if you look up September 19th on the Catholic Church's calendar, it's to remember Saint Januarius, the patron saint of blood. Again, if you haven't seen him, it'll make a whole lot more sense once you watch it. And I'd also encourage you to check out the videos I've done on him and the little things they encoded in the movie besides what we've already talked about, because it screams Catholic/Jesuit. Not to mention the movie ends up with a game between the Saviors and the Masons, and there's a satanic bloodbath party on Mason Street. Remember, the Jesuits are the fathers of modern Freemasonry, the order that has the G in their logo. And the Jesuit headquarters is the Church of the Jesu with the big old G. But yeah, in light of Brandon Clarke being the 21st pick of the draft, just notice how him equals 21. So does blood. So does Jesuit. Jesuit educated. And I just explained it with him and blood. And these are blood sacrifices. No doubt about it. And what annoys me is how this evil elite gets away with this. And then they're always pinning these deaths on things like overdose, car crash, self-deletion. You know, all of this stuff is bullshit. And again, it's a somewhat humiliating death to die from a self-inflicted overdose, if that goes down as your legacy, when that's not what happened. And same with a self-deletion. Imagine that people are made to believe you killed yourself when you didn't. Brandon Clarke died on the 235th day of his age. The formal title of the Jesuits is the Society of Jesus. The Society of Jesus, Jesuit educated. And of course, I've been on campus at Gonzaga educating these students back around this time. You know, Brandon Clarke was a student on the Gonzaga campus when I was on that campus educating about these Jesuits. And actually, I take it back. I was educated. The first time I educated Gonzaga was 2020. That was shortly after he was drafted into the NBA in 2019. So he had recently just left Gonzaga when I was educating his fellow classmen about this code and the Jesuit shenanigans going on in the world. And again, why do they do this? Watch the movie Him. I think it sheds some light on why they blood sacrifice. You got to do it. It's what all the greats do. They saved the news for today, the day leaving 233 days left in the year. Brandon Clarke, 233. Funny how everybody gets in a car crash, deletes themselves, ODs by the same old code, right? The $1 million coincidence. And keep in mind, this comes in the 80th season. And this is why you got to know the four ciphers, right? He's using 4 ciphers. Rewind my videos. How long ago was it that I talked about 118 and death? Oh, that's right. Yesterday. Sadly, that was the day he died. The news didn't break until today. But Brandon Clarke, 118, death and homicide equal 118. You know, this deadly cruise ship, the MV Hondias, 118, that was ordered. Look up what day that ship was ordered. It was ordered November 8th, 118. If you missed my work on that ship departing from Argentina and being from the Netherlands in 1978, that was the World Cup, Argentina beating the Netherlands. Hantavirus was discovered in 1978. Patient Zero's Leo, some weird last name. His name equals 78. The star of the Argentina football team, Leo Messi, the current Pope, Leo, who replaced the last Pope, the first Jesuit who was from Argentina, who turned 86 the day before Argentina won their first World Cup since 86. Anyway, all this stuff, you guys, it's all connected. Scripted news, rig sports, blood sacrifice, just another day in the life. But anyway, coming back to Brandon Clarke. You see the 55 and the 80, just like Satan. And it's not to say that he's Satan or he's satanic. It's to say that because this poor guy had these numbers in his name, it made him the right sacrifice for the 80th season. And if you've seen him, the Satan thing makes even more sense too. It all just starts making more sense on every level. And, you know, again, we had this stuff figured out, 12 years before Him came out? And in a way, I honestly think we probably influenced the plot of Him and the things that were shown in the movie. I don't think it's capped to say that. I mean, last summer, Hollywood literally made a movie for me, Eddington, where they used my exact quote from my book through the whole movie trailer. So I think we are having a major impact. And I think that's also why the channel has been deleted 25 times and they have to keep a super shadow ban. They can mock us in Hollywood, but then they don't want the educational teachings getting out there to reach the masses. Let's see. What else do we have here? Yeah. According to NBC Los Angeles, Clarke's death is currently being investigated as a possible overdose. So today, May 12th, 2026, date was 63 numerology path, which would break down to 9. May 12th, 2026, 5 plus 12 plus 20 plus 26, 63. Drug overdose equals 63 forwards and backwards. And keep in mind, he would have died yesterday, right? Yesterday would have had 62 date numerology. If you've seen him, it gets real bloody at the end after they show you the 73 jersey. All these numbers we talk about all the time with ritual sacrifice over and over again. Yeah, and just for the record on drug overdose, it has the 153 up there like Jesuit order, since this is synced with their leader. It has the 171 up there, which is the 18th triangular number. And then notice on the same day that we get his drug overdose, what follows it by an hour in the news cycle is Jason Collins, the 18th pick of the 2001 draft, is dead. And then they have to tell you that he was the first openly gay. Is my daughter waking up already? Because we just went to bed. Maybe she's just calling out in her sleep. The first openly gay player, dead at 47, homosexual 47, homosexual also 43. This likely applied to Obama, who was number 44, but the 43rd person to be president, who took off at age 47 and who lit up the White House like a rainbow and called his wife Big Mike like 47 times. I mean, Michelle. But anyway, today has a lesser date numerology of 43. You just leave off the 20 part, 5, 12, 26, like a movie poster's written. 5 plus 12 plus 26, 43. Oh, by the way, I forgot to make a point about the whole sacrifice thing a second ago. Genesis 46 is about sacrifice, and Catholic Bibles are 73 books long, and the first book of the Bible is the beginning of the Torah, which is 62 and 73. But sacrifice 46, Genesis 46 about sacrifice. Him came out on 19/9, like 199, the 46th prime number. It should remind you of the 199th pick of the draft, the GOAT. Tom Brady, 199th pick, his name 46. Again, his whole scripted career would have never even played in the NFL if it wasn't all one big joke. Zero athleticism in that body. Guy literally ran the combine with bitch tits. Anyway, I think there's something about Jason Collins' death in the upcoming World Series too, because again, all of the sports sacrifices are related, and you know, this comes right after the NFL draft when hymns about the NFL draft. But he's dead 161 days after his birthday, or the 162nd day of his age. And Major League Baseball is 162 and 63, like today's news. And just baseball alone, when you run it in reverse, is 162. Again, 162 game season, 18th pick of the draft. I'm picking up on some World Series ritual here, because his birthday is December 2nd, which is 12/2. This is the year of the 122nd World Series. And the World Series this year begins on Ignatius of Loyola's birthday anniversary. And let me just check that out real quick, too. He's dead 164 days before the start of the World Series. If it ended... they probably would play on October 30th. That'd be weird if it ended on October 30th, 171 days. Jason Collins played for a lot of different cities, so that's something worth investigating. Year after year, they have all these celebrity-related sacrifices for the big games, and obviously this one's right before the NBA Finals. Also, in light of him being about the draft and the sacrifices made to be in the league, notice the draft this year for the NBA starts on June 23rd. These deaths are announced 42 days before the start of the draft. Number coded all over Black history, slavery, the N-word, Tuskegee, a million other things connected to Black history. including there's only 2 months that equal 42. One is Black History Month, February, and the other is May. And here we are. None of the other months have a 42 connection. Also, from the Superior General's last birthday, November 12th, 2025 to today is 181 days, the 42nd prime. And keep in mind, Jesuit is 42. Georgetown's 42, the first Jesuit university in the U.S. Slavery, 42. Georgetown built by slaves along with the rest of the capital city, a.k.a. the Jesuit city. And then in light of Jason Collins playing for so many cities, he did play for Memphis like Brandon Clarke and infamous death in Memphis, which was a major Jesuit ritual that went over everybody's heads. MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. assumed the name Martin Luther. And by the way, Martin's also 42. Martin's 42. Jackie's 42. Malcolm X is 42. Muhammad Ali is 42. Of course, none of those guys were born with those names. By the way, LeBron James got swept yesterday. He's 41, thus in his 42nd year of life. But yeah, MLK. MLK was killed on the 95th day of the year. He assumed the name Martin Luther after the Protestant Reformation leader who wrote the 95 Theses beginning the movement against the Catholic Church. MLK, numerous members of his family died in 38 rituals. And by the way, the Boule equals 38, which he was a member of. But yeah, here we are 38 days after MLK's death anniversary in Memphis. And now you got two men connected to the Memphis Grizzlies basketball franchise. And you see how murder and Memphis have a lot in common. They both have the 34. They both have the 38. They both have the 83. And don't forget the song Murder by Numbers about killing people by the code of ABC 123 came out in the year 83. And, you know, all the words. Here's the movie poster for Murder by Numbers, has the 3883 encoded in it, the orange 7 and 9 around the words. Like Murder 79. But yeah, Murder. The star of Murder by Numbers, Sandra Bullock, 83. The movie came out on an important day to the Jesuits, the anniversary of Ignatius of Loyola becoming the Superior General. By the way, Netflix added him to their roster on April 19th, right before the NFL draft, on a very important Jesuit date. And that movie did come out 38 weeks after Sandra Bullock's birthday. Killing, Death, R.I.P. They're all 38. Look up the song Gematria, the killing name. Gematria is 38, like killing, like English, like Kabbalah. Two members of the band that did that song, Gematria, the killing name, died in connection to 38. One 38 days from their birthday, the other at age 38. And for the record, Slipknot is the band that does that song. The other one died at age 46. Slipknot, 46, like Sacrifice. Their song, Gematria, the killing name, they said they'd only perform it for the Pope. They performed it on the 59th day of the year, Pope Francis 59. For the first time ever, a 20-year-old song, they performed it on the 59th day of the year. And then Pope Francis died 52 days later, like Pope's 52, like the 52-week calendar name for the Pope. And don't forget, Pope Francis, born Jorge Mario Bergoglio, 111, died on the 111th day of the year. On Rome's birthday, he died on the 312th day of Trump's age. And then we got the first American Pope from Chicago, the 312. And that was after Trump supposedly got 312 electoral college votes. And Pope Francis died 201 days. By the way, the Jesuit order equals 201. Everything about the Jesuits is 201. If you've seen him, they show the sauna temperature go up to 201 degrees, and then it cuts away, and then the rest of the movie gets really bloody and gory, and all the blood sacrifices come. But, yeah, Pope Francis was named after St. Francis of Assisi and died 201 days from the death anniversary of St. Francis of Assisi, too. And then with regards to the 105, you know, Pope Leo equals 105. Look into my work on this cruise ship where patient zero was Leo from Argentina. The name of that cruise line equals 105. And, of course, they docked in Spain on the 10th day of the 5th month. And anyway. But, yeah, this stuff all goes with the same old slave code. And one was 29 and the other was 47, right? Brandon Clarke, 29. Jason Collins, 47. Add those years together. 29 plus 47 equals 76. The difference of those is also 18, which is interesting since Collins was the 18th pick. But notice the slave Negro Rasta Blues, 59-76. Again, Ephesians 6, verses 5 through 9. Slaves, obey your masters. Acts 7-6. 400 years of slavery. Black History Month ends on the 59th day of the year. Black History Month recognized by the feds in 76. Your first black president in the U.S. and the only one to date, Barack Obama, 76. His Secret Service name, Renegade, 59. His book, A Promised Land, number 44, released it on the day, leaving 44 days left in the year, but A Promised Land, 59 and 76. Anyway, both men played for the Grizzlies, which equals 59, and Jason Collins was drafted by the Houston Rockets, which equals 59 and 76. And, of course, Houston's one of the blacker cities in America, as is Memphis. So this stuff is not an accident. It's just more of the same old, same old. And, I mean, literally just a broken record educating about how when the championships come around, the bodies start dropping. Because I'm short on time, I know there's been some other deaths in recent days. NFL death, Morton. I don't have as much time as I used to. But yeah, this Craig Morton just died on the 129th day of the year. Do you remember how many 129s there were in the Super Bowl? How many 129 deaths there were before the Seahawks improved to 12-9 versus the Patriots all time? There were about 1,000. And we used this knowledge in the days after to take that little North Carolina school in a big upset in college basketball that's the home of the Seahawks. And, of course, the 1960 NFL champion who died in Wilmington, died days before the Super Bowl, the Wilmington Seahawks. He died in a 129 ritual. So, yeah, on May 9th, the 129th day of the year, you get another football death. And no one's going to question the death of the 83-year-old, right? 83-year-old, football 83. We just talked about murder 83. He was a Cowboy 83, played in Colorado for the Broncos 83. And, you know, for you Bronco fans, you better hope, you know, what's his name? Jerry kicks the bucket. I think he's got to go before you win another one. The Cowboys fans are always looking for some hope. Number 14, right? The Super Bowl's coming up on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. 214. Isn't that the Dallas area code, 214? For all you Cowboys fans looking for a prayer. Craig Morton, who led the Broncos to their first Super Bowl appearance, died on May 9th at his home in Mill Valley, California. The Broncos announced Monday. Of course, the Super Bowl will be in Los Angeles. The 213, the last time the Super Bowl was there, it was on 213, and L.A. won it after the Odell Beckham Jr. trade. That was Super Bowl 56. You guys look at Odell Beckham Jr., right? His birthday is November 5th, the day leaving 56 days left in the year. He got traded from Cleveland to L.A. on his birthday, right? And it was his 29th birthday, like football's 29, like Ohio's 29, but he wore 356. We had number 3 to score the first touchdown to Super Bowl 56 for the monster payout, 3.5 point spread. We had the dog to cover the 3 in Super Bowl 56. Again, learn this knowledge, guys. You'll just see how rigged the game is year after year. Morton, who spent 6 seasons with the Broncos from 77 to 82, led Denver to its first playoff appearance and a berth in Super Bowl 12. Oh, right after the Seahawks just got the 12th win over the Patriots. Seahawks record versus Patriots, including playoffs. 12-9, right? 12-9. And that's why haters can hate all they want, but I advise my community to take Patriots money line because they had a real narrative to win. And I said, if they don't win and the Seahawks have a lot, Seahawks are going to win by at least 12 points. So take the Seahawks to win by 12 plus. Of course, they were up 19-0 in the game. And don't forget, I was all synced with the Pope. They became 19-19 in the playoffs and the NFC Championship, advancing to the Super Bowl exactly 19 weeks after Pope Leo's birthday, when the last 3 times there was a new Pope, Seattle, a major Jesuit city, went to the Super Bowl. And the time before that was when they beat the Broncos. And by the way, you know, that was the 94th NFL season when they beat the Broncos. Seattle, Washington, 94, Denver, 94. Look how many starts Sam Darnold has to his name as he wins the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold won the Super Bowl in his 94th NFL start. Not an accident. Business as usual. The other year I was standing out in front of the Seahawks Stadium for their opener versus the Rams, and I said, hey, get ready for the loss because what's his name? If we went from Georgia? The Lions quarterback, what's his damn name? Matt Stafford, Georgia Lions quarterback. Now the Rams quarterback. He leaves the Lions and takes the Rams to a Super Bowl right away. Matt Stafford the other year got his 94th career win in the opener versus Seattle. We were out there telling the fans before the game was even played, prepare for the L. Let me see. Super Bowl 12. There were some deaths from the Super Bowl 12 team. That was in 78, the 12th triangular number. I got to go back over my notes. I know some people died from this Super Bowl 12 right before the Super Bowl. Craig Morton was the former quarterback, so he faced his old team. Interesting. So start thinking about this stuff because they like to. Is there any quarterback that could face his old team in the Super Bowl this year? Is that a scenario? Is that a narrative? It doesn't have to be that way, but it could be. It could be. That one was played in New Orleans. Let me pull up this this Morton guy. I didn't have a chance to work on this one until now, but I figured I'd just tuck it in here at the end of this stream since it's all related. They had to mention his 41 regular season wins, huge Super Bowl number. He was inducted into the Broncos Hall of Ring of Fame in 88. That was 38 years ago. Colorado, the 38th state, right? Colorado 38, like murder, like death, like killing, like RIP. When the Seahawks beat the Broncos, that was the Seahawks 38th season, and then Russell Wilson was eventually traded to the Broncos on March 8th. You know, he beats the Broncos with the Seahawks, then he goes to the Broncos on March 8th. And we saw it early in that season. We said, man, it looks like the Broncos are going to end up 3-8 versus the Panthers. And sure enough, that season they did. Panthers 38, who lost to the Patriots in Super Bowl 38, and who also lost to the Broncos in the golden anniversary of the Super Bowl, hosted by the 49ers, named after the Gold Rush on February 7th, the 38th day of the year. And by the way, speaking of February 7th, the 38th day of the year, if you were on my Patreon, we advised Golden Tempo. We said that was a long shot. They had a real narrative to win the Derby. That horse was born on the 38th day of the year. A lot of gold rituals in the time of Trump being 79 years old. Gold, the 79th element on the periodic table. If you heard about the 22-foot statue that just went up for Trump made out of gold on his golf course, 79 is the 22nd prime. Gold's the 79th element, abbreviated AU. If you missed that work, check it out. All this stuff's connected. You can see through it all with the knowledge. You know, look at this, you guys. The guy who's dead, his career began in 65. So that was 61 years ago. Isn't it Super Bowl 61 this year? So many narratives. Mahomes' fake injury right after... what's that ugly, overrated singer who was supposedly dating Travis Kelce? I can't even think of her name. Taylor Swift. She puts out the end of an era, and then Mahomes has a fake injury that 2 days later. 61 weeks from Super Bowl 61 on the nose. Caleb Williams, who played at USC in LA, finishes his season against the Rams 61 days after his birthday. Not to mention it's the 18th prime, like he wears 18 and bears equals 18. But just things to think about in light of the upcoming season, as they released the schedule for the NFL this Thursday. See how they mentioned that Morton had 80 touchdowns? He dies at the end of the 80th NBA season. I don't think that's an accident. I don't think that's an accident. And speaking of which, I also don't think I ran the numbers on Jason Collins' name. I did for Brandon Clarke, but I think I skipped the gematria of Jason Collins. Wasn't I talking about the MLK thing, you guys? MLK was killed on the 95th day of the year, and now he's dead 38 days after the MLK anniversary. 193 is the 44th prime. MLK was killed on 4/4. It's been 58 years since MLK was killed. He was killed in 68. That seems pretty suspicious. Jason Collins, 44, like MLK killed him. Damn, I didn't run the numbers on Jason Collins. Look at that, you guys. 181. He's dead 181 days after the Superior General's birthday. Went to the unofficial Catholic school, Stanford. There's that 73. We just talked about that, how it gets real bloody after they showed jersey 73 and him, sacrifice 73. So, yeah, I forgot to run the numbers on Jason Collins. 44, just words like kill. Well, they said he died from brain cancer. Look at brains 44 and his 26, just like cancer. 44, 26. Did I see that Jason Collins wore 88 for a minute in his career? Hold up. Did he wear 88 too? He wore some crazy numbers. No, he wore 98 like national basketball. He wore 46 like sacrifice. He wore 34 like Memphis and murder. Played for Atlanta too. You had all those Atlanta-related deaths this week. Ted Turner and Bobby Cox. Yeah. Go figure. Jason Collins dead 181 days after the Superior General. I knew, and without even running that, I knew it because you guys. I mean, the thing is, they pay tribute to MLK a lot in the NBA. So, I mean, if you pay attention, it really goes without saying. Yeah, wicked. And let me see if Brandon Clarke has a middle name because I only ran his first, and no, he's one of these guys who only has two names. It's interesting that he was born in Vancouver, Canada, because if you don't know, the Grizzlies, they were a Canadian franchise and they relocated to Memphis. May 11th, the day of his death. Date can be written 11/5. Killing has that 115. And it's also the 131st day of the year. Championship code. Yeah, played his whole career with Memphis. Only played 2 games this year. I got to look real quick. I got to look from his last game to his death. Two games he played were December 20th and December 17th. So he played his games during Saturnalia. Played on the Pope's birthday anniversary, Pope Francis, who died, and then 3 days later. He died 145 days after. Remember, in the Catholic Bible, 145. Well, there's 46 books in the Catholic Old Testament as opposed to 39 in the Protestant, and 145 more chapters. Again, Catholic educated. And by the way, you guys, I mean, it is the 132nd day of the year. The announcement went to the Jesuit Catholic School in Stanford, unofficially Catholic, huge Catholic community. Looks like you're in the Holy Roman Empire if you go to Stanford. If I'm not mistaken, one of the founders of Stanford, I believe, is also Jesuit educated. I need to go back and double check that too, but it's all related. And like I always say, the whole education system, whether it's a Jesuit university or not, I mean, the Jesuits are pretty much responsible for the way we go to school and modern education. And again, they're responsible for the language in the calendar. And I know it's no accident that school equals 72, like Jesuit order, like how we got the first Jesuit Pope Francis on March 13, 2013, the 72nd day of the year. Last 2 presidents in this country, Jesuit educated, and it's not just those 2, but President Trump, 72, President Biden, 72. These things are not an accident. All right. I think those are the main points for now. So thank you again, Cashville lady, for your constant support. Appreciate the big 2. And 19 either said, good job, Zach. Please support this work. I wish more people did. People support the sports work for sure, but the news, people don't really support it at all. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's from Vancouver. That's what I was saying, Julius. If I didn't say it out loud, yeah, he's from Vancouver, Canada, where the Grizzlies once were. Yeah, if you got here late, I talked about him being the 21st pick and how it fits in with his birthday being the day of the movie him being released. Him's got the 21, Jesuit educated. The movie's about blood. And by the way, somebody in the chat said Craig Morton 61. Yep, look at that, 61. Started his career in 65. His name's got the 133 like football. Go figure. The bodies are going to start piling up for Super Bowl 61. Super Bowl 59, just because he died on 5/9. That was the Eagles over the Chiefs in tribute to Lincoln and the freeing of the slaves. Let me measure real quick from his death to Super Bowl 61. Super Bowl 61, easy day to remember, Valentine's Day. He died 281 days before that Super Bowl, which is the 60th prime. Dies after Super Bowl 60. And should have died 90 days. Should have died 90 days after the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl was on the 39th day of the year. 90. Okay. Yeah. With the NFL getting underway in the NBA Finals, there's going to be a lot more stories like this. Sadly, goes without fail. Every year, clockwork. All right, guys, I better get back to the family life. I'm going to wake up my daughter. I don't want her to sleep too late because then she won't go to bed. And got to get dinner going here. All right. Nice work on the Craig Morton catch. Thank you to the 2 super chatters. And let me see. I'm scanning the chat real quick. Yeah, brain cancer does have that 74 like killing. Austin's in Washington State like me. I'm gonna upload a short video because while I was walking my daughter this morning, I was like, "Good God, what are they doing today?" I've seen days where they spray, but today was ridiculous. And of course, our whole sky, we woke up to blue skies. Our sky's the obvious sheet of gray haze because oh my God, you guys, I mean, I've never seen so many tic-tac-toe patterns as I saw today. And it reminded me that tomorrow is the kill date for the month of May. I was like, what do they really spray up here? I mean, this is obnoxious. And it drives me nuts that people think like those are just contrails. Or the planes lost today. There's like 5,000 streaks in the sky today. So I'm guessing Austin's in a different part of Washington State. He's on the other side of the mountains, but we're not too far apart the way the bird flies. I'm guessing it looked the same way to him for him to write that in the chat today, because it was ridiculous here. It was probably the worst I've ever seen it in my life in Washington State, to be perfectly honest. Insane this morning. I'll upload the short video that I recorded of it. They're just contrails. Well, the key word there is con. It's definitely geoengineering and God knows what else. All right, True Seeker. We'll leave it there for now. Thanks again to everyone who hits the like and the share. And until next time.